Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. I hope you're doing really well, and I am so excited for today's video because I'm actually going to be helping someone do their own budget. So it's not going to be my finances, but it is going to be a real person's finances that we're going to go through today. And I'm basically just going to go through and basically say what I would do if I were in their situation. None of this is going to be financial advice for this person, and I've made that completely clear to them, but it is just like friendly advice just to show someone what I would do if I was in their circumstances. Obviously, I'm no guru, I'm no expert, I'm just someone that likes budgeting money, doing a spreadsheet, keeping track of payments, making sure that my expenses don't exceed my income and all of that kind of thing. And I know that's really hard actually in this day and age. Having access to things is so easy now, and it's so easy to sign up for that little thing, get that little thing on credit, maybe pop something on a credit card, and then it just snowballs to a point where your expenses, outgrow what your actual income is, and you can get stuck in this little doom loop of having to borrow money just to get through the month. And in the case of this person, I have been chatting with them and we've basically gone through what her income is, we've gone through what all of her fixed expenses are, and then I've basically just given her a little bit of advice about how to split up money and how to spend money and budget a little bit better for just her monthly expenses. We have very similar lives, it sounds like we go out with the kids, we spend money on days out with the kids, and as mums going out and about with the kids, it's very easy to spend money on things like clothes for the kids, clothes for yourself, little cafe trips when you're at the farm park or soft play, whatever it might be. It all adds up, and sometimes when we're out with the kids and things like that, it's just so much easier to just tap that card rather than pack the packed lunch the night before, and it just really adds up. This person also has a credit card debt and a store card and things like that, and kind of has relied on that a little bit to get through the month sometimes. So I'm hoping that just by going through this can hopefully help this person, but maybe even you as well if you're in a circumstance that is similar to this, just to see how you could potentially do things a little bit differently if you're in a position to do so. I mentioned it at the end of last week's video, but just in case you don't make it to the end, I wanted to mention if you wanted me to do something similar for your budget, I'm actually looking for someone that earns less than £25,000 or thereabouts, £25,000 a year. If you would love a little bit of help doing a budget, maybe if you're on universal credit or you're trying to figure out what your budget could look like and how to maybe save a little bit of money here and there, I'd love to help you out as well in just figuring out what you could do differently. Again, none of this is financial advice, but it's just, I think it's nice to talk about things openly, be transparent, and just have bounce ideas off of each other, because otherwise we're just riding through this world on our own, and actually we could all help each other out a little bit. So if you kind of fit that bracket, then let me know, reach out to me on comments or on Instagram or something, and I will go through and I'll pick someone to potentially do something like this with. The person whose budget we're going through today takes home just over £2,000 a month from their job. That's after tax, after pension contributions and everything. So they've got about £2,000 to play with, plus child benefit, which apparently at the moment is basically just going into the joint account and getting lost in amongst, bills and other expenses throughout the week and month. So we're going to try and figure out what we can do there. We're going to go through everything, all of the expenses, all of the spending money, potential savings. This person doesn't have any savings at the moment. They've got a couple of holidays booked and they've got some credit card debt. So we're going to go through it all. I'll talk you through what her circumstance is, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so I reached out to everyone on my last video saying if anyone wanted me to do this for them, then to reach out to me, and this person did. I've actually chatted to her a few times on Instagram anyway, and I said that I'd be more than happy to help them. And essentially I said all of the things that I would need from her, all of the information, all of her direct debits and expenses, how she splits her bills and everything with her partner, what their financial setup is and how they split things, because that's so different for every single family and couple, how they decide to split their money, and that is totally dependent on what works for you and everything like that. But this person actually said they split roughly 50-50 the bills. There are some things that her husband picks up, and there are some things that she picks up, but mainly the big bills come out of the joint account that they put 50-50 into. Their food shop comes to about £80 a week with another £60 top-up shop, so that's about £140 a week, which is definitely something that we can work on. They also have one takeaway a week, which I figured instead of cutting that down to one takeaway a month, maybe do it in baby steps and go for one takeaway every 2 weeks. That could be a really massive way of cutting down, because takeaways are very expensive. Petrol is about £150 a month between them, which which doesn't sound a lot at all to me, so that's great. Then we get to things like credit card debt and other debts like a Next store card. So we just need to figure out like how best to tackle the debt and things like that. And then it's just a free-for-all for the rest of the money that's laying around in her current account, and she'll just spend it on days out with the kids, bit of skincare for herself, home decor pieces, things like that. Maybe even getting her nails done if she's got money left over at the end of the month. But to be honest, it doesn't seem that excessive. It seems really normal to me, the amount of money that she's spending. She's got about £700 and it just disappears. And this is where hopefully budgeting and sticking a specific number on different categories that we want to spend money on is going to be really helpful for her. She also said that she would love to have a little bit of savings towards Christmases, birthdays, holidays, spending money, because they've got a holiday coming up that they've already paid for on a credit card, but they would like to have a little bit of spending money so they don't have to put that even more money on the credit card. Things like date nights and stuff would be amazing too. Her priority at the moment is definitely just getting through the month and not having no money left, so she then has to use her credit card again, because at the moment she's getting to like maybe week 3 and then having to spend money on the credit card just to get through to the end of the month. And that is definitely like the doom loop that we want to get out of, because there's enough money to play with, it's just not being allocated properly. Okay, so I am going to be using the spreadsheet that I usually use to budget my money, and I'm just going to use a little portion of it for now, and then I'm going to send it to this person so that they can edit it and make it theirs and do whatever they want with it for free, so you don't have to buy it. But I do sell this over on Etsy as well. I think it's like £3, and I promise you, using a spreadsheet like this has revolutionized my budgeting, especially, and by using like the POTS method on an online app like Monzo, like an online banking app, so that I can separate all of my money. But for now, let's just do, you know, this income and then all of the expenses, and then we can move on to like the spending money afterwards. So after income tax, national insurance and pension contributions, this person takes home £2,150.97 from her salary, so that's from her job. That's how much she takes home. She also receives child benefit for her 2 children, which is £170.20. So in total, that's £2,321.17. Now, at the moment, the child benefit money goes straight in to the joint account, and that is where most of her living expenses come from, but it's just being lost in there. And that is probably because the joint account is being used for, yes, bills and everything like that, but also, I think, petrol, also takeaways, and the weekly food shop. And those 3 things like add up, right? So if you're not putting enough money to cover the bills and all of those 3 things, then the child benefit money kind of just gets sucked up into the vacuum of, you know, how expensive things are. So I suggested potentially, if it's something that I'd be happy to do, to put the child benefit into a separate account or a separate pot, or like add it into her budget for like spending days with the kids and going out with the kids and buying clothes and stuff for the kids, because that's something she spends a lot of money on. But it can be completely up to her, but don't just put it into an account and let it just get sucked up into the vacuum of like, you know, everything being really expensive. I think having it separate is a really, really good idea. Potentially, if there was any way that she can get through the month without it, to save it towards, you know, in a savings account or something for the kids. But we'll go through and see what her expenses and stuff looks like before we get to that point. For now, I've just included it into her total amount, which is now £2,321.17, which is really, really similar to the amount of money that I had when I was working like 4 days a week in my previous job. So this is a budget that reflects, you know, a pretty average income. Like I think the average income in the UK is about £30,000, between £30,000 and £35,000. So this is pretty bang average. And it's doable, but it is really hard in this day and age. So we're just gonna go through everything. Going down to expenses, because her and her husband split all of these bills 50-50, I've put all of the expenses here, and then at the bottom, what it's gonna do is just divide it by 2. And I've put a little formula in to show the total amount, and then also to show what her half of the bills is, so that she knows how much money to transfer into the joint account every month. So the mortgage payments for this couple is £1,432.49, which is a pretty hefty mortgage payment. And that's, I'm assuming, because they're on a higher interest rate. We're on a very high interest rate on our mortgage as well. Just luck of the draw, it is what it is. Mortgage rates are really high at the moment. If you are taking out a new mortgage, you're looking at about 4 or 5% in terms of the interest you're paying, which means the monthly payments skyrocket. Our monthly payments when we moved into this house was £850 and now they are £1,250. And that is just because of the interest rates. We haven't borrowed any more money. It just is the interest rates at the moment, which sucks, frankly. Food and groceries for this couple, don't forget it's a family of 4. They have said that they spend about £80 a week on the weekly food shop, but then also go and do top-up shops, which are roughly about £60. So they're basically doing £140 a week on food. And this is definitely something that we can look at trying to tackle. I find that the top-up shop kills the budget. It kills it because you're in the shop thinking, oh yeah, I'll just get these extra bits. Oh, that looks nice, because I'm not doing a full shop, so I can afford to get that. And it adds up so quickly that it basically equals another weekly food shop and you've just spent double the amount that you could have possibly spent. So I said potentially if you could try and do 1 weekly shop a week, but give yourself a budget of £115, which is a pretty average amount for a family of 4. So £115 a week, but don't exceed that and don't do the top-up shops, but buy loads of stuff at the weekly food shop. Go £115 a week. If you times 115 by 4.33, which is roughly how much a month is, because not always 4 exact weeks, is it? Sometimes they're 5 weeks, sometimes they're 4 weeks. So a month is about 4.33 weeks. Times it by 4.33, that gives you £500 a month to play with. 500, that is it. That is it, that can be your budget. Rather than spending £140 a week, which would make it £606 every single month. So you're already saving £100 a month that way, which can really add up over the course of a year. Their water bill is £37, their gas and electric is £89.50. TV licence is £15, and then their council tax is £204. Petrol between them is £150, which is really affordable. Maybe they work really close to where they live, potentially, don't know. Childcare for them is only £20 because they have the funded hours, and then also I think they have grandparents help, and the £20 is just to cover the lunch costs at the nursery, so that is amazing. House maintenance company, which I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I'm sure that if you live in certain accommodation and you have house maintenance done regularly or whatever, the payment for this is £32.76. The loan that they are paying back to a family member at the moment is £120 per month that they share. The Sky subscription is £100.50. I'm assuming that this covers their internet and their Sky, TV and stuff. I suggested, when I looked at this, that's why it's in bold, I suggested potentially looking at that tariff that they're on, because that seems so high to me, but that's coming from someone that doesn't have Sky or Virgin or anything like that. I just use Freeview, but I understand that some people want Sky because of all the extra things you can get on it, movies or sports stuff. We're not really a sports family in this house, for which I am grateful, but other people are, and it's something that people don't want to compromise on. That's totally understandable. However, what you can do if you are on a tariff with Sky or Virgin or whoever, you can call them up and just say, look, I'm thinking about leaving because it's a really big expense for me and my family and I just don't know if we can afford it anymore. And they have teams on the other side of the line that are literally customer retention teams that are there to keep you, and they will pretty much do anything to keep you. They could lower your rate potentially. They could lower your tariff and basically say, we'll give you a discount, 20% discount for a year. You could lower your rate by not even changing anything, not lowering your tariff, not getting rid of Sky Sports if that's something that you want to keep, but you could reduce your monthly bill, and it's definitely worth doing. Like I say, customer retention teams are literally there to retain you as a customer, so definitely worth trying. So that's something I suggested to this person as well. Car insurance is £61.19 monthly. That's a joint expense for the family. And then home insurance and life insurance. This person currently doesn't have the home insurance or life insurance cover at the moment, and so that's not a bill that's coming out. However, I would definitely recommend getting both of those things because wow, it's so worth it. Our home insurance covers things like our boiler and our washing machine and things like that. And it's definitely worth it because we've used it. We have used it. And obviously life insurance speaks for itself. It's really important. It seems like such a boring expense because you don't get anything for it. Insurance is just not fun, but it is really important, especially if you have kids, a mortgage, things like that. It's just not worth the risk. So definitely something to look into. For this person, I'm not obviously going to look around for home insurance and life insurance for them, but when that is something that they can do, definitely recommend doing that. The total outgoings at the moment for this couple are £2,762.44, and then this person's half of that is £1,381.22. At which point you can see from her original £2,321, at the bottom we've still got £939 to play with, but she has some personal expenses. So we're going to go up to the personal expenses and see how they're doing. These personal expenses are things that she pays for from her current account. Like, these are things that she's solely responsible for. This includes a couple of things of debt and then also some bills that she's got coming out. So personal expenses, at the moment this person has 2 pieces of debt that she's paying off. There is the Next store card or Next account credit thing, but basically when you buy things from Next, but you don't have to pay it back, you can pay it back in installments. I know that this is so common. It's like a Klarna or any other kind of store card that you can get. So many people do it. The interest rate on this is 24.9%, but if you pay the minimum repayment, apparently you don't have to pay the interest, which is what this person does. So there's £200 left to pay on this account, and she's paying the minimum payment, which is £50 a month. Obviously, if she pays this every month and doesn't add to it, this will be paid off in 4 months, and it is interest free. So I've decided to leave it as that. Like, if I were her, I would probably leave it as that at the moment. However, the credit card debt I would tackle immediately, because the credit card interest is 25.28%, which is hefty. And actually, she doesn't owe a lot. It's £1,500, and there are so many people that are in a lot more debt than this, but debt is hard to get out of, especially when you're in the habit of using that card and relying on it. So it's something that I would like tackle really, really aggressively if I were her. This £1,500 was for holidays and other things, and then every month it seems to be like added to, because it gets to the end of the month and this person doesn't have any money left and then uses the card to get by. However, that is something that we're going to try and change. This person said that the monthly payments are £300 on this, but if you are in credit card debt, it's a really great idea to try and see if you can transfer the balance, so the £1,500 from this 25.29% interest rate card to a 0% interest card, because then the payments aren't going towards the astonishing amount of interest, but it's going just towards the capital that you owe. So transferring this amount to an interest-free credit card would be amazing. It's not always available for everybody, and sometimes there is a fee attached to it, so it's worth looking on comparison sites. I think Money Supermarket and Money Saving Expert have these kind of comparisons on their sites, and they are really, really good and concise and easy to do, and they kind of handle it for you. I would definitely recommend doing that. Obviously, it's not financial advice. It's not going to be suitable for everyone, but I think that is what I would do if I were her. If she paid off £300 every month and then didn't add to it, she'd be debt-free by September this year. Obviously, if she could add even more to that and the money was going towards the capital payments rather than the loan payments, then it would even be quicker. That is what I would do, but this is what I would say for now. Just keep it at the £300, because that is definitely doable with the amount of money that she's got coming in. And then Amazon Subscribe and Save. I love to see this. Apparently this costs her £25 and includes things like toilet roll, Calpol, vitamins for her and the kids, things like that, and £25 a month. Comes out of her account, goes to Amazon, and then everything gets delivered to her door, and it's a lot cheaper buying things like that on Amazon Subscribe and Save than getting it from the supermarkets during the weekly shop. And then her phone bill is £60, which unfortunately is just how much phones cost. They're incredibly expensive, I know. So her personal expenses come to £435. And then this is where I feel like it gets interesting, spending money. This is where this person struggles the most, because all of this money is just left in her account, right? And at the moment, as it stands, we've got £504.95 left. So that's how much money is just sat in her account, and she just spends every single month without fail. It disappears on various different things, going out with the kids, clothes, just buying things when you're out and about. Like, it is very, very easy. Online shopping, no doubt, like that's a massive culprit for a lot of us. But the thing that has changed everything for me personally is putting all of my leftover money, so in this circumstance it would be the £500, transferring that to an account, so a Monzo account in my case. This person also has Monzo but hasn't really been using the POTS function. Transferring that 500 quid into a Monzo account and then using the different pots that they can make on Monzo for example, the pots that I have suggested she does based on what she said she spends money on, separating that £500 and allocating that money throughout these pots. So the things that she said that she spends money on, takeaways that usually came out of the joint account, but I have said put that into a spending pot so that you can see how much money you're actually spending on takeaways. I feel like the visual element of this is really helpful as well. And if they'd be willing to cut down to one takeaway every 2 weeks, for example, and say a takeaway costs about £40, she pays for one takeaway and then her partner can pay for one takeaway. So I've said about £40 would be, you know, a fairly normal amount. I don't know how old her kids are actually, so I don't know whether they'd be having takeaway as well. I know takeaway can be really expensive though. Ideally, one takeaway a month would be like a lovely, lovely treat. And I swear, if you have a takeaway less frequently, you really appreciate it when it's time to have that takeaway. But I know that, look, not everyone's going to want to do the same cuts. I think some things are more important to other people. If you've been working really hard all week and you just do not want to cook, and that takeaway is the one thing you look forward to every week, look, I'm not here to judge, do you, but figure out what is important and what you want to spend your money on and do it that way. This is just my suggestion and she can change this whenever she likes. Days out with the kids, she says she does a lot of days out with the kids, spends a lot of money on food, ice creams, you know, coffees when she's out, days out at soft play, days out at the farm park, all that kind of thing. So I've said try and keep it to £100. That's £25 a week. Again, this person could decide that £100 is not enough to do that, but I figured that by, you know, doing things like a packed lunch or taking that coffee from home or whatever it might be and just spending the money like that is needed, every week having £25, if you're going to soft play and that's the only activity you're doing that you need to go out of the house and spend money on that week, you can actually go to soft play and only spend a tenner pretty easily. But I figured if you know that you've only got £100 to spend, you'll be a bit more cautious when you're spending the money on the expensive pom bears at the soft play and getting that takeaway coffee and getting, you know, ice creams and things like that. Look, getting ice creams for your kids when you're at the park is a lovely thing to do. I get it. But you don't have to do it every single time. You don't always have to buy lunch out when you're doing a day out. You could maybe pack the lunch or whatever it might be. So it's doable, and I'll check in with her a little bit later to see if she's sticking to it and see if she likes it. But like I say, you can use the pots on Monzo to separate all this money so that when you see that £100 for days out dwindling, you go, okay, well maybe I won't spend the money next time we go out. Maybe I'll spend less next time we go out. And you'll find that your mentality around it is different because it's not just like this massive amount of money in your current account. It's not £500 in your current account that's dwindling, it's £100, it's much less. So I have found that that has definitely kept me in check in terms of my spending. Lunch at work, this person goes into the office once a week and gets food every time she's out at the office. Now I don't know what kind of lunches she's getting, but for example, if you worked in London and you were getting a coffee and a meal deal, that would easily be a tenner, if not more. And so if she's doing that once a week, then obviously that would be at least £40 a month. And that is something that, look, in an ideal world, she'd pack a packed lunch and take in all of that and not spend a penny on food. But I get it, I'm a mum as well, and if I was going into the office, I don't know if I'd have the mental capacity to then pack my lunch, pack the kids' lunch, do everything. I would probably go, you know what, I'm going to take a shortcut this week and spend a tenner on food. So I get it, life is busy and sometimes we just have to get that meal deal wherever we are. Clothes, I've said £40, and that for me I think is a really generous amount. Every month you do not have to buy yourself and your kids new clothes, but we all do it. We all do it because we get sold to constantly. We are on Instagram and we are in the shops, and cute clothes, I feel like there's less guilt when you're buying clothes for your kids as well. And you think, oh, they need that, and this is cute. Look, you don't need to do any of that. You're still a good mum if they don't have brand new clothes every single week or every single month, I promise you. But I know that it's really tempting. It is really, really tempting. £40 I feel like is fairly generous. £20 for her and £20 for kids' clothes, and that's the thing that she said she spends a lot of money on, hence the next door card. Again, if you've put a pot of money on your Monzo account and you can just see there's only £40 in it, you think twice about ordering that cute cupboard for your daughter or that really cool jumper for your son. You do think twice because actually those things are probably 20 quid each anyway. And then you're thinking, well, I won't have anything left in that pot if I spend that money, so maybe you'll think twice. That's definitely what's happened for me when it comes to spending money on things like clothes, so I'm hoping that'll work for her as well. Skincare, this person said that she gets a lot of skincare each month, and maybe that's moisturisers, cleansers, a treatment, I don't know. £30 I feel like is if you're spending more than £30, then, I mean, you might be getting really luxurious things and they might be absolute game changers for you, but for me, 30 quid is a decent amount of money on skincare. I use skincare, it costs about £25 a month, so I do understand, like, it does cost money and it's something that I prioritise, so I get it. Again, if you are in Superdrug or whatever and you're buying this, that, just because it's there on offer, blah, blah, but you see it all adding up, if you've only got £30 in that pot, you're only going to allow yourself to spend up to £30. That's where this like whole mindset shift kind of thing comes in. Self-care, now you might be thinking skincare is kind of self-care, but for me, self-care for this person, from our conversations, she was saying she loves getting her nails done, but she doesn't do it every month because obviously she can't afford to do it every month. But also she likes having, like, you know, a little treat here and there on whatever, it's like guilt-free money. And I said, put £30 in that pot. Don't use it every month. Maybe save it for a couple of months. Then you've got £60. Then if you don't spend it that month or only spend like £10 of it that month, then you'll have £90 or whatever it might be in that pot in a few months' time. And you can get yourself a real treat, guilt-free, because you've actually allocated that money, you've saved towards it. And again, it changes your mindset just to like get that little treat, that little dopamine hit. You can actually work towards something, and that can be your sinking fund for self-care, that nice little treat, getting your nails done, maybe going to get your hair cut, whatever it might be. And it actually just works towards something rather than wanting something instantly and being annoyed that you can't have it instantly. Or worse, spending money on something at the beginning of the month and then at the end of the month not having any money left and having to put something on a credit card that is a necessity, like a food shop or whatever, because you've spent money on like frivolities at the beginning of the month. I feel like saving small amounts throughout the month towards a bigger goal, a longer term goal, and not having something instantly but working towards it changes your mindset so much, and it means so much more when you eventually do get it. And a lot of people might be like, well, put that £30 towards debt, and yes, if you're looking at it blankly, of course you should do that. However, I don't want to be completely like, don't have any fun, don't do anything good for yourself and just pay off all of your debt, because then it's not sustainable. You'll probably get into more debt. It's about the mindset shift, not just paying off debt and then eventually getting back into more debt because you want to do something again. It's about saving up for things that you want to do and changing your habits so that you don't get into more debt in the future. Date night was also something that she said she would love to do, but it's definitely not their like absolute main priority. So I've just put £15 in there. Look, she's also got a partner and I'm sure that he could chip in for a little date night, but 15 quid doesn't have to be something extravagant. You can't go out for an amazing meal out on £15, but you could go to the cinema. That's a date night. You could definitely do something with the 15 quid, or you could get, you know, a nice meal in from like M&S or whatever, those like, is it date night for two, whatever meals that you can get, and like dress up and have a date night in if you've got the kids and no childcare. Like, there's ways of getting around it. So I figured the £15 is better than nothing, and having it in the pot, again, if you wanted to save it up for a couple of months and then do something nice together, it's definitely worth having that pot. And if it's something that's important to her, then I decided to include it. So with all of that included, the spending total comes to £295. Moving down to savings, these were the pots that she said were really important to her, and if she was in a position to save towards these things, it would be amazing. At the moment, she doesn't have any savings towards any of these things, but she knows she should have, and it's really obviously sensible to do these kind of sinking funds for upcoming expenditures. So things like an emergency fund, just in case anything bad happens, you know, don't have to put it on the credit card because you've got an emergency fund to cover it. Car maintenance, so things like MOT and service. Birthdays, because obviously there's always someone in the family that has a birthday or a friend that has a birthday, and it's really nice to have that pot of money aside so that you can just dip into that and get them a nice little treat, or maybe buy them a birthday present, or go out for dinner with your husband on their birthday, whatever it might be. Having a birthday pot is always a winner. Holidays, this person is also going on holiday this year in August and they need some spending money for it. And then Christmas, of course. Christmas last year apparently for this person went on a credit card, and then she has paid that off now, which is amazing, but obviously it'd be really good to not have to put it on a credit card every year. That is honestly so common. So many people have to do that, and it's just basically because they don't have the money up front to pay off, you know, all of the Christmas presents, all of the Christmas shop, all of the Christmas activities, all of these things that we put the pressure on ourselves to do. To have all of that amount of money in 1 month is impossible, frankly. So if you start really early in the year and put a little bit of money towards it, by the time Christmas comes around, you're gonna have at least some money towards it. Any amount will help, but it's key you actually don't dip into it throughout the year. So Obviously, this person at the moment is saying that she ends up by the end of the month putting things on a credit card. If she's able to stick to this budget by using the Monzo pots, I think she'll probably be able to stick to it. So for the emergency fund, I've just said put £30 a month in every month and then watch that accumulate. And obviously you only dip into it if there is an emergency. Also, these pots on Monzo are the savings pots, and these are pots that you can earn interest on. Every month you will earn whatever 3.3% or 4% interest on the money that you have in these pots, which means you're making money on top of your own money that you've put in, which is obviously a bonus. Car maintenance, I've said £20 a month. That can, over the course of a year, obviously add up towards a MOT, a service. If your tyres have like a puncture or whatever, you can get it all sorted. Birthdays, I've said £50 a month. She's got 2 kids, she's got a partner, I'm sure she's got parents and things like that she wants to buy presents for and do nice things for. £50 a month, honestly, if you can do it, will literally change everything. Especially like when you've got a month where it's someone's birthday and then in 2 weeks time it's someone else's birthday and you need to like dip into these pots. Or if you're going to birthday parties of your kids' friends and you need to buy a little birthday present, it's good to just have the money available to you rather than having to dip into your general budget and it throwing your month upside down. Holidays, they are also going away soon. So I've said put £50 away a month for that in terms of spending money, and then when you're there, it's not gonna have to go on the credit card again. And the same for Christmas, I've put £50 a month from now until Christmas, and at least that's gonna contribute a little bit towards Christmas, presents, food, all the rest of it. If she can afford to do more, great, but at the moment, I would prioritise the debt, overpaying on the debt as much as possible, because if she doesn't get any more debt on her credit card, then that will be paid off by September, and then all of that money can go towards things like Christmas towards the end of the year. All of those saving pots on Monzo would be £200, and then in the future, she has said that she would love to start contributing towards a moving fund for things like solicitors' fees, maybe a larger deposit on a newer house, stamp duty, all of that kind of stuff. But at the moment it is not her priority, and I have suggested maybe just parking that little goal for now until, again, debt free and we've got into a nice rhythm of not putting things on a credit card towards the end of the month. And then in total at the end of it, she has a total of £9.95 left. But for me, I would even just put that into my pots on Monzo, and whether that's something like adding it to the days out. So for example, if she wanted to change that to £109.95, perfect, and that means she can get an extra coffee while she's out, or an extra ice cream or 2 at the park or whatever, then fantastic. And she has no pennies remaining, but she's spending all of that money in specific areas that she's allocated it towards throughout the month, as well as saving towards some of the important goals that she has throughout the year. And so the fact that she has no money left at the end of the month, she doesn't have any money left over the end of the month at the moment, and has no savings, and all the money's kind of just disappeared, and she's increasing the debt on her credit card. If she can stick to this, it means that she's spending money on the priorities in her life. So, and she might look at this in a month's time and go, I don't want to be spending £40 a month on a takeaway. Maybe I want to put that towards days out with the kids, or maybe I want to put that towards actually birthdays, or making sure that we do get that date night out once a month, and that is a nice dinner at a pub or whatever. She can adjust this based on what her priorities are, what her goals are, and what is important to her and her family. But the main thing is, money is not just getting lost in and amongst just one current account where it's all just like flying away from her, basically. Allocating it into different pots and visualizing where your money is going is so key to sticking to a budget. So yeah, that is everything that I would do if I was in this person's exact circumstance. Now, obviously, like I said, none of that is financial advice. That person does not have to follow any of what I've said. I am not in any way qualified to tell her what to do. I'm just literally talking to her like I would my best friend. And I've done this with my family members and friends before, where I've just said, look, if I were you, this is what I would do. And I don't know why we're all so funny about money. I just feel like we all bury our heads in the sand and just go, you know what, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not even going to think about where my money's going because it's too uncomfortable to think about. And actually, when you put the numbers in and figure it out, it's not that bad. Like, this person has a lot of disposable income. There are so many people that have so much less. I'm in a similar situation where I have a lot of disposable income, and when I see it all written down, I go, wow, I'm really lucky. But I still have to be smart with it, because at the end of the day, if you've just got loads of money just there, it's really tempting to just be like, right, spend, and not know where it's gone, not have a plan really, and not be any better off. at all, because all you've done is just spent all your money. Whereas if you're sensible with it and allocate it and really think about what your priorities are for you and your family, because that's going to be different for everyone, by the way. Account like Monzo, where you visualize all your different pots of money rather than having it all in one pot, I think is key. It might not work for everybody, but it definitely works for me, and I would recommend it to anyone that asked. If you wanted me to do something similar for you and you're on a salary of roughly about 25,000, or if you're on universal credit or something like that, I would absolutely love to see if I could do this for you, a similar thing. Look, like I say, not financial advice, nothing at all, but I just figured, why can't we talk about this stuff? Why can't we, share our ideas? And if any of you guys have any ideas about how you do things differently, let me know down in the comments. I would love to know. I'm trying to be really lenient and be like, right, we still need to have fun, we need to enjoy our lives, but we need to be sensible. Like, that's my mentality. But it might be different for you. You might be like, get rid of the debt, go, go, go. Don't spend money on things like self-care, go. Just get rid of your debt, then you can have fun. Like, it depends on what your outlook is. But yeah, let me know down in the comments. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
'Cause you glue all the pieces back together. Yeah, you take all my wrongs and make them better. Yeah, you're making me wanna try